On May 30th, the New York Post, an outlet that doesn't usually break movie scoops, reported that Disney head honchos were in panic over the new Star Wars film, Rogue One. According to the article, Disney bosses were not fully satisfied with director Gareth Edwards' first cut of the movie, which allegedly fell short of what J.J. Abrams did on Episode 7. Furthermore, the movie did not test well, so Disney mandated that the movie would go back for 4 weeks of expensive reshoots in July. After this article, the internet lost its shit, and the outlets that usually break these kind of scoops reposted the story and scrambled to learn more. This way, more bits and pieces were published, such as the reshoots being about brightening the tone, or that nearly half the movie needed to be reshot. One news item would sometimes conflict with another, but all of it served to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt among those who want the movie to be good. And given the size of the Star Wars fanbase, that is a pretty hefty number of people. Before we proceed further and try to make sense of it all, there are a few things one needs to keep in mind. In general, reshoots are quite commonplace, and by themselves not the cause for concern. A movie is written not just in the scripting stage, but also in the editing stage. That is when the filmmakers see if some scenes just don't work and needs to be redone in a slightly modified fashion, if more connective tissue is needed to highlight certain aspects of the story, or if they need new footage to bridge the gap in case otherwise redundant scenes to be deleted contain something important. Reshoots are so commonplace that, for instance, Marvel always schedules a couple of weeks of reshoots for all their movies while they're still in pre-production. Of course, then you have the instances where filmmakers hand in their cut of the movie, which they may or may not be happy with, only for either executives or test audiences or both to decide that the movie in its current form simply isn't working. And so reshoots are ordered, not so much to make the movie better, as to elevate it to something that works, period. These are the instances where you might want to temper your expectations. But even in these cases, it doesn't automatically follow that the finished movie will be a mess. The filmmakers might pull it off still. For instance, X-Men First Class was also in trouble at one point in its production, so much so that half of that movie was reshot too. But you'd never guess judging from the finished product, which turned out alright. Other times, test audiences were simply wrong, such as when they destroyed the initially perfectly serviceable I Am Legend with a new ending that ruined the entire point of both the story and the title. And then of course you have the cases where the whole movie is so fundamentally broken that no amount of reshooting, short of scrapping everything and starting over, can fix it. But those are extreme cases. In short, reshoots planned from day one tend to be good, while reshoots mandated by either test audience dissatisfaction or executive dissatisfaction can go either way. With that firmly in mind, let's get back to Rogue One. As I said earlier, the media outlets that follow movie productions got in on the action real fast. Within days of the initial scoop, there were claims that as much as half the movie would be reshot. The reshoots would lighten the tone, as Edwards apparently had made the movie too much of a Black Hawk Down style war movie. Han Solo would be worked into the story. Writer Christopher McQuarrie would be working extensively with Edwards to make sure they were on the same page. Entertainment Weekly also reached out to Lucasfilm to get some clarification on the matter. Of course, it is equally possible that Lucasfilm reached out to Entertainment Weekly in order to use them as a mouthpiece. But no matter who contacted who, Entertainment Weekly gave us the more official stance on the matter. The anonymous but highly placed source at Lucasfilm confirmed that Rogue One would indeed undergo 5 weeks of reshoots, which were set to conclude in mid-July. Furthermore, these reshoots were claimed to have been planned in advance and originally scheduled for spring, but bumped to midsummer to give Edwards and his team more time to decide what they wanted to alter. The Lucasfilm source also clarified that the changes have everything to do with clarity and character development. Instead of redoing entire battle sequences or plot lines, the reshoots were more about adding talking in cockpits. Entertainment Weekly also added that the rumor that almost half the movie is being reshot elicited both laughter and groans from those closest to the film, and that the reason the reshoots take 5 weeks is because many of the actors aren't available at the same time and have to be shot separately. All these separate contributions add up to 5 weeks, implication being that if they were all available at the same time, the reshoots wouldn't last nearly as long. Also, Christopher McQuarrie was denied to be involved with the reshoots, something McQuarrie himself also denied on Twitter. The article did, however, state that Tony Gilroy, writer and director of Michael Clayton, was brought on board to offer notes on the first cut of the movie and write some additional material to enhance the story. Finally, Lucasfilm denied that the reshoots would soften the tone, or that there had been any test screenings at all. The problem for us on the outside is that we don't know which kind of reshoots we're dealing with, the ones planned in advance or the ones driven by panic after poor reactions to internal screenings, regardless if they were held for test audiences or executives only, which would be more likely given that we are talking about Star Wars. The rumors all indicate panic-driven reshoots, but through Entertainment Weekly, the studio insists on the reshoots being planned in advance. Of course, however convincing the Entertainment Weekly story might come across as, it doesn't change the fact that the other outlets, many of which have proven track records in these matters, still insist that the reshoots are far more extensive than Lucasfilm would have you believe, and that shouldn't be overlooked. I'm inclined to believe that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I'm not sure things are quite as dramatic as the more extreme rumors suggest, but I do think there is more going on than what Lucasfilm lets on. While that Entertainment Weekly spin piece, for that is what it was pretty darn good as far as spin pieces go, far more convincing than other spin pieces which often have holes so big you could drive a truck through them, there are still a few things which stood out to me. The article said that the reshoots were originally planned for spring, but bumped to midsummer to give Edwards and his team more time to decide what they wanted to alter. Decide what they wanted to alter? Why do they need to decide that? Either they know something works, or they know it doesn't. If there is doubt about this, then that is indicative of larger aspects of the movie being in something of a state of flux as well. This would explain why Tony Gilroy has been brought on board to give notes on the existing cut and write new scenes, as no new set of eyes would be necessary if the movie was proceeding according to plan. Also, they really glossed over the rumored changes in tone, without going into any kind of detail or specifics at all, leading me to believe there is definitely something more to this part of the story. Having seen Gareth Edwards' earlier movies, none of which I'm a huge fan of, I can well believe he made the movie at least partially in a tone that doesn't line up with what they seem to be going for. Regardless of the extent and nature of the issues the movie might have, it would appear Lucasfilm is determined to fix them, even if that might mean that Gareth Edwards' original vision may have to be modified to make the movie better line up with Episode 4, which it is the most direct prequel to. But will the reshoots bring the movie closer to what the fans want, or further away from it? Time will tell, but until then, let me know what you think in the comments.
If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button. Join us for spin-free news and analysis of the happenings and corporate politics behind the scenes of your favorite genre movies, as well as explorations of your favorite characters and their backgrounds and context here at Midnight's Edge.